Hi and welcome. My name is Jamie Hartley here at Crossfader, and today we're doing a demo and review of the new Pioneer DDJ 800. In this video you're going to learn what this piece of equipment is capable of doing, all the ins and outs of it. I'm going to showcase all the different performance features, and hopefully you can learn a thing or two about this controller, whether you're A, deciding whether to purchase it, or B, you've got your hands on it, you're sat in front of it and you want to learn a little bit more about how to get started. At the end of this video, I'm going to give my opinions and thoughts on this controller, as well as there will be a link to a performance video that we have created. So make sure to stick around and check that out. Please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff to help us keep making more videos like this, and let's get stuck in. The DDJ 800 has professional grade connectivity, is powered by a DC in and has both XLR and RCA master outputs, as well as a jack booth output. Each channel has a line or phono input. There are two mic inputs, both with attenuator controls on the back, plus an aux input. It connects to your laptop via USB cable, and on the front are two headphone outputs for 1/8 and 1/4 inch jacks. The Pioneer DDJ 800 is a 2-channel Recordbox ready controller, so you can plug straight into your laptop and it will activate Recordbox performance mode with the actual controller. There is also a license key provided for the Recordbox performance mode of the software within the box, so you can then decide to, if you want to play with other controllers or players with that piece of software, you can unlock it as standalone as well. But if you end up selling this controller further down the line, you don't have to deregister your Recordbox and sell it with a controller. It will just plug and play into the next person's Recordbox. So that's a really nice feature that Pioneer have recently added to their range of controllers. It's worth noting at this point that this controller doesn't work with Serato DJ, and it is pretty much specific for Recordbox. Now let's look at the browse features of the controller. So we can use the pot at the top here to scroll up and down through a particular playlist. We can use the back button to go back to all of our playlists and scroll up and down. You can click that knob in and it goes inside the playlist. To load a song, just click the load button at either side and it will load into either deck 1 or deck 2. Underneath the browse pot, we have the usual mixer features, such as a 3-band EQ. This is an isolator EQ. You can change in the settings whether it total kills each band or whether it goes minus 26 dB. You've got your trim controls, up faders, and a crossfader as standard. The crossfader isn't a Magvel crossfader, so unlike the DDJ 1000, which is much more designed for scratching and it's much looser, it's not a Magvel crossfader, but it still works really nice if you are a scratch DJ. Also on the face of the mixer, we have view options here to view the library and go back to the deck view. We have a master level, a booth level if you've got a booth monitor plugged in, and then the headphone cues above each channel, plus a master cue here. The master cue allows you to blend in between the cue and the master in the headphones mixing option down here, and then underneath we have the overall headphone level. The mixing option is great if you want to preview how songs sound together and balance between the levels before bringing the fader in of the next song. Right in the center we have the sampler level, which we will look at shortly, and then across the middle of the two channels we have the sound color effects. These are basic effects that you can quickly apply to your mix or to any track while you're playing. The effects just toggle on and off. Let's have a listen to some of these features now. The EQs at the moment are on isolator mode, so it will totally kill each band. We've got the highs, mids and lows. We have normal trim controls as usual. The sound color effects start with filter, and that's a low pass filter into a high pass filter. Noise. Which creates a build up style effect. Pitch. And dub echo. It's worth noting that dub echo does work post fader, so we can turn it on. And after killing the fader, it will slowly fade out that effect. It's also worth noting that these sound color effects, you can change the intensity of them within the Recordbox DJ software. To do this, have a look at at the effects tab here. And then you can see we've got the normal effects bank, and then underneath is CFX, which is the color effects. In here, you can change the parameter, which is the intensity of all these different effects. So if you want a really flat responding filter, you can bring it down here. If you want the noise to sound louder, or quieter, you can also do that here. It will remember the setting for each individual effect. So there's a little tip if you want to expand on the sound color effects and how they sound. We will talk about the beat effects and the mic later on in the review. Now moving over to the player section of the controller. We have the all-important cue and play button, nice, big and tactile, as standard, the same size on CDJs and XDJ players. The jog wheel is touch capacitive and it's a bit smaller than a club style setup of CDJs. And it's not mechanical, so rather than a pressure sensitive sort of ring on top, like on the DDJ 1000 or on most CDJs, this is just touch sensitive. So when the track's playing, if we touch the top, it will stop the track. And this is on vinyl mode. You can scroll backwards and forwards through the music. You can turn vinyl mode off by holding shift and pressing slip. This is the vinyl mode feature underneath. Now it will turn into a nudge, faster or slower, rather than stopping the track. With vinyl mode back on, you will use this mode for scratching. And you can also use the edge of the jog wheel to nudge it faster and slower. The jog wheels also have jog adjust, which changes the tension of the jog wheel. So if you've got it on light and spin it forwards, it might run away from you a bit and it's much lighter to nudge. On heavy, you've got to fight it a little bit more and there's a much more tension applied to the jog wheel. I will say, however, because these are touch capacitive jog wheels, I don't think this setting is quite as responsive as on the mechanical style jog wheels. I feel like there isn't a drastic difference between heavy and light, but you can still get a bit of user preference there by setting it how you kind of want the jog wheels to be when you're nudging and beat matching. But that's just something worth noting. I think you get a bit more tension control with the mechanical style jog wheels. In the center of the jog wheels, we have the onboard color display. We can change what shows up in this display. At the moment, there is a lot of information there. We have the current BPM of the song, an overview waveform. We've even got the key of the song, how much pitch change there is, the range of the pitch, and also the time remaining, which you can change to elapsed. There is a phase counter which counts along and shows you how far you are from your next cue marker or saved point in the song. And you can even see all of your hot cues layered on the overview waveform there. It will tell you if you're using deck 1 or deck 3 and if beat sync, which is available here to sync the two tracks together, is turned on or not. So there's a lot of information right here on the jog wheel. So we don't have to look at the laptop too much to understand what we need to do for our next mix. To change the settings, all we need to do is go to the gear icon in Rekordbox. And then within here, if you go to the controller and then deck, you can scroll down and you'll notice on jog we have info screen or artwork screen. If I keep it on info screen, I can change and take away the display cue scope. So it takes away that cue scope here that counts down to the next cue marker. I can change it from time elapsed to time remaining. Or I can just turn it to artwork screen, which will just put, if you have any artwork embedded on the current loaded song, it will show it up here. This is from our Crossfader music pack, so it shows our Crossfader logo. If you wanted your logo for every song, you would literally have to drag it into the actual file itself for every single track. So you can't just choose an overriding logo to show up there. It will just show the album artwork. You can also change the brightness here. I've left it on number 5, and there are loads more settings available for the whole of Rekordbox and this controller within the preferences. It's worth getting used to these different tabs and panes within the Rekordbox DJ software. We'll be going back and forth into them for different features. The last thing to say about the jog wheels is if you have ever played on an XDJ RX2, they are pretty much the exact same feel and style of jog wheel as on there. Like I mentioned, they are smaller than the DDJ 1000 and club players like the CDJ range, but they do feel great and they're good for scratching and they do the job well when it comes to mixing. There are different ways to search through a song, so when it's playing you can either hold the fast forward and rewind to search through. If you hold one, you can do a super fast search by moving the jog wheel and it will scrub through the waveform very fast to different parts. This helps you preview your song before playing it, and there's also track search to just go through a playlist one by one. The tempo adjust is full size and you can change the tempo range, so how much you can speed the track up or slow it down by. There's a button here to do that. At the moment it's on plus and minus 10%. You can go to 16%, so it'll go 16% faster or slower, to wide, which is 100% faster or slower, and then plus or minus 6%. Right back round to plus or minus 10. This allows you to stretch the tempo of the song and reach different BPMs to do transitions to different genres, and you just have that full range of the BPM spectrum. Underneath there we have master tempo. This basically locks the key of the song, so when it's playing, if we have that off and nudge the track, you hear the pitch of the track go up and down. Again, if we speed it up, higher or lower in pitch, let's turn it back on. It puts the pitch of the song back to its original, even though you're changing the speed of the song. Master tempo is featured on CDJs, so this is where this is starting to inherit the club style CDJ setup, so you feel very comfortable going from this controller onto some CDJs in a nightclub further in your career. Above these two buttons we have the key sync and beat sync modes. Beat sync will synchronize the BPM of one song to the other. You just toggle that on and off, and you can hold shift to choose which is the master deck to synchronize to. Key sync will synchronize the key of the song to the opposite side. So if you have another song loaded, let's just load one on the opposite side, and I put key sync on that side, it will match the key of this song or find a key that will work with the current playing song. This one doesn't work isn't too bad because it's only gone up by plus 1 semitone, as you can see on the screen here if I press key sync again. But some songs it might stretch it and go up 4 or 5 semitones where it will start to sound very unnatural. But this is a nice feature added. You can hold shift and reset the key if you find you're way up too far on the key sync and you've gone 4, 5, 6 semitones and you want to just reset it, then shift and key sync will reset. Moving to the top of the player section, we have some performance controls here. First of all, the memory cue and memory loop options. You can save up to, I think, 10 or 12 different memory cues or loops throughout the song. So say, for example, we didn't want a cue at the start of the song, and we wanted to start the song further into the intro. I could find the section that I want to start from every time, set up a cue point by holding the jog wheel and pressing Q, and then by tapping memory, it will set this red marker. To access the list of memory points, use this drop down, click memory cue, and then you've got a list of memory cues that are stored here. Now I've got some other ones saved throughout the song, so this is where these two buttons come into play. The left and right buttons will skip through the song, through the different memory cues. You'll notice this one looks different. This is because this is a memory loop. So if I skip to that point and press play, it's automatically looping. Cue it up and skip back to that intro. These are static points throughout the song, so you would choose a point to work from before you started mixing. If you want to jump to one of those points, you're better off setting a hot cue, which are part of the performance pads down here. I'm going to come to them very soon. While we're talking about the memory loops, I just want to bring your attention to this, the active loop. Underneath this button here where it says reloop exit, you can hold shift and turn on and off active loop. You'll notice the loop icon turns from orange to red and it toggles it on and off. What this means is that when this is red, whenever it gets to that point in the mix, it will automatically activate the loop. So let's just skip to later on in the song. And you'll notice this on the screen, so just watch. And that automatically activates that loop. You can choose to have that on or off, and that's what the active loop does. With it off now, it won't automatically activate. That's really useful if you want to keep your hands free to do something else, but have that loop automatically activate. While we're talking about loop options, we have the standard in and out points that you can set for your loop. If you want to manually loop, this is the same on the CDJ players as well. When a track's playing, you can set an in and out point and it will loop in between those points. That's a 2-beat loop, and then the next button will exit. It's worth noting that quantize next to this is a really good feature to have on when setting up manual loops. When quantize is on, it will lock the in and out points to the grid of the song, so if your grid is correct, it will stay on beat. With quantize off, if you're not quite perfect, it won't stay on time. So let's exit, turn quantize on. You can also hold the in point to set an automatic 4-beat loop. There we go. Lastly, if you press the exit button again, it will re-loop and jump back to that point, to the last loop that you've set. Underneath the loop options, we have slip reverse and slip mode. So slip reverse will reverse the song, but theoretically continue playing. So when you let go of slip reverse, it will jump back to the position that it would have always been in. Let's listen. You'll notice that there's a grey marker on the screen that continues to go across the waveform. That's the current playhead, so when I let go it will jump to that marker. This is just a little creative feature that you can add into your sets. Slip mode is similar, but you can now introduce things like hot cues by holding them, and it'll jump back out. Back spin. Little scratches, but it will always stay in time if you are in the middle of a mix. Moving down to the performance pad modes. Rekordbox has a whole range of different pad modes to choose from to perform with your music. The first pad mode is hot cues. It's one of the most popular features on controllers. You can set up to 16 hot cues on this controller and in the Rekordbox software. Hot cues are active points in the song that you can jump to. So if I just press this first hot cue that's set, it will jump to that position and start playing, and I can jump through the track to different important points that I predetermined. I could set a hot cue on the fly by just tapping an empty slot. And this, again, with quantize on, will lock it to the grid. To delete a hot cue, hold shift and press delete. Now I said you can do 16, but there are only 8 pads. This is where the page buttons come in. If we use page, we can toggle to another 8 free performance pads. They're on the screen here, and all of the other performance pad modes are all available. If you toggle between them now, they will automatically show up on the screen as well. It's also worth noting that you can set a loop and store that within the hot cue mode as well as a hot loop. If I just set up a 2-beat loop here, and then while that's active, press one of the spare pads, and you'll notice it has saved the loop within that pad. So I can always jump back and automatically loop at the same time. Next, we have the pad effects 1. These are tactile effects that you can hold each pad down to apply the effect. You can change all of these effects with this gear icon and using the drop down to choose from a whole host of different effects that Rekordbox has to offer. Just like before, there are 16 available in each Pad Effects 1 and Pad Effects 2. To access the layer underneath, just hold shift, and now we're in Pad Effects 2. Next, we have beat jump. This will jump through the track in a predetermined length of time. So on the screen you can see we've got 8 beats left and right, 4 beats, 2 beats and 1 beat. This is good for skipping through the song or setting up hot cues. You can also use the page button to bring up longer beat jump lengths. Next we have sampler. The sampler level is controlled in the center of the mixer here. You can load one-shot clips into here, or loops even, to then layer in underneath your set. If I just open up the sampler tab there, you can see what we've got loaded in, and you can just set those one-shots off and play along as if you're finger drumming. Drums. You can have different samples on both the left and the right hand side, so if you're really good at finger drumming, you can use both hands to perform along with your music. Using shift, you can also change the sampler bank. We've got up to 4 banks to choose from. You can go left and right and have plenty of space to choose from. Underneath, sampler and hot cue they're the last 2 modes that we have available. Oh, and we've got beat loop as well, so let's look at that first. Under beat jump is beat loop. This is like the automatic version of what we've just covered up here. That's a 2-beat loop, and then you can chop it down if you want. 1 beat, half. Press the pad again and it will undo the loop. Use the page buttons to show up different loop lengths. Underneath hotkey mode, we have keyboard mode. Now when you go onto that mode and let go of shift, it will flash all the different hotkeys that you have saved. Now if I press one of those hotkeys, it will load that into a keyboard. Now as I go up the different pads, it will jump back to that hotkey and pitch the track either up or down by different semitones. So we've got original, and when you get to here, you can use the page buttons to go even higher. And we can go back down again, even lower. The white one is always the original key or pitch of the song. If you've gone up to a different key and want to reset it, you can either use master tempo, reset on the key sync, or just use the pad itself. So there are a few different ways to get, if you are on a different page of here for example, you can knock it back to the original key that way. Key shift mode underneath sampler is the same, however it doesn't keep jumping to the hot cue, it just lets the track continue to play. And that does the same as before. These are really creative modes that you can use to do things like tone play transitions, which we actually have a specific course for. If that's something that you're interested in, you can check it out on our website. Moving over to the mixer section again, we have the beat effects here. These beat effects can be chosen with this knob here, and there's loads to choose from. A lot of them are taken from, say, the Pioneer DDJ 900 Nexus 2 mixer. There are a few that aren't featured on that mixer, but you'll feel very at home going from this controller to playing on a mixer like that and using the effects in the same way. The effects are also the same on the DDJ 1000, which is worth noting. I'm going to quickly flick through the effects and show you how this channel works, and so you can hear some of the effects in action. First of all, we can choose the effect with this knob. I'm going to choose Loca Echo to start. Then you can choose the channel which you want to apply the effect to underneath. From master, channels 1, 2, decks 3 or 4, or even the sampler. Let's just leave it on master for now. When the track's playing, you can then turn the effect on with the blue button and turn the level up and down, as well as change the beat fraction. So if we just turn it on with the level up, you hear the effect being applied. You can change the beat fraction. Let's quickly flick through a few. These effects work post-fader as well, things like the echo and the reverb. Spiral. Reverb works on a percentage. Trans will silence and chop the music every parameter that you choose, so every half beat. Enigma Jet. These are like frequency effects, the Enigma Jet. Flanger and phaser, all similar. Then you've got a pitch effect to pitch the track up and down. Bit of a strange one. Slip roll will record whatever you activate it on. So say if we've got one beat, it will record that one beat. Loop it over, then when we change the beat fraction, it will listen to something else in the track that's currently playing and grab that. So you can get some glitchy effects. The normal roll will loop whatever you activate it on, and then you can chop that loop down or extend it. Mobius Saw and Mobius Try actually don't need anything playing underneath to work, but this is some synthesized sine wave sounds. And these create interesting build-up style effects. And there we have all the different effects. Lastly, it's worth noting that there is a release effect underneath the on-off switch. So by activating the effects here, you can change what the release effect is within the software. We've got vinyl break, echo, or backspin. So if you've got an effect like this active, you can hold shift and press the on-off switch, and it will turn the effect off while applying an effect to it. So that's added an echo at 3/4 of a beat. Then when we let go, the effect is turned off. So it's a way of killing the effect rather than just turning it off, and that's the release effect. Underneath the 2 beat fraction buttons, you can tap the BPM in manually if you want the effect to be applied at a different speed, or you can turn it back to auto, so it will automatically read the BPM of whatever channel you have selected. There are a few more little advanced things that you can get used to. For example, we can switch from deck 1 to deck 3 and deck 2 to deck 4 here, and actually layer in multiple decks in the same channel. So there are 2 different options that are worth knowing about in the record box settings. If we click the gear icon, then go to the mixer under controller, you can change mixer mode from 2 channel to 4 channel. If a track's playing on 2 channel, for example, and you switch to a different deck, you'll lose the audio from that channel. However, if we have it on 4 channel, we can switch to a different deck, even load a different song. We could sync it up, or you could use the tempo adjust. You can use volume controls for that channel, and everything works independently. All the EQs work independently, and you can switch back and forth between the 2. So you can actually control 4 decks, but you only have 2 channels. So it gets a bit confusing, because what happens is when you switch from one deck to another, you've got to move back to where it previously was before it takes effect again. So you're not going to be doing any advanced crazy mixing using 4 decks, but you do have the option to use up to 4 decks and layer them underneath. So if you just wanted to layer an acapella in between 2 tracks that you're mixing, that you could probably do pretty easily. But if you want to literally mix in and out between 3 and 4 decks, it's going to be hard with just 2 channels. But that's worth knowing about, and knowing about the setting within the software. You also have the option to switch to the phono and line setup here as well. The mic controls are something that Pioneer DJ have shouted about within the release of this unit. So I'm just going to show you what you have available. Obviously, on the top of the unit, you have the on-off switch and the mic levels, as well as a high-low EQ to control 2 different mics that go into the back. On the back of the unit, you have the attenuation. So if you're holding the microphone a bit further away and you need to pick up more sound source, like if you're holding it a bit further away from your mouth, it will pick up more level, or if you're holding it closer, you can turn the attenuation down so it's not as hot, and that can be done on the back. It is quite fiddly, so if you are a mobile DJ that uses this kind of setup, then make sure you kind of do a lot of mic checking between the level on top and the attenuation on the back, and how you hold your mic, and how potentially other people that you're going to hand the mic to are going to hold it as well. You're going to be fiddling around a little bit. In the software, there are a few more settings to be aware of. So if we click the mixer mic tab here, you'll notice down here we've got the level of the mic. We've just got 1 mic plugged in, and then there's some more advanced features. If these are grayed out, then you need to go into the gear icon here, to the mixer tab, and then go down and you can see microphone input. We've got effect mode and low latency mode. Now it's worth noting, low latency mode, you would just have that on if you're not going to use any of these effects. However, I can't record the microphone unless I have effect mode on. If I turn low latency mode on, which I found out halfway through a previous version of this review, it cuts out the microphone recording. So I can't switch that on there, but that's just the normal mode. With effect mode, you can put low cut filter on or off, and you can change the talkover mode from normal to advanced. Advanced just keeps more of the higher frequencies of the music there, rather than cut the whole music down, so you kind of blend your voice into the music a bit more, and you can change the talkover level. In effect mode, now, these different options will appear. So you can apply effects to your voice. You can put an echo on and turn the level up here, so you might be able to hear the echo there now. You can turn that off and apply different effects. There's the talkover option here to turn on or off. And then this is a new feature that Rekordbox have added, which is this feedback reducer. And there are 2 options, heavy or light. So the technology behind this and what's actually happening with the feedback reducer, it sounds like it's phasing out any feedback noises. So if you hold a microphone somewhere near a speaker, you get the feedback coming from the microphone. Now that frequency, it tries to phase it out so it reduces the feedback. But what happens is some of your voice might get phased in with it as well, and it starts to make your voice sound a little bit weird and a little bit computerized, especially if you have it on heavy. So you've got to really play around with it to make the most of this feature. I like that Pioneer DJ have thought about it and trying to improve the way that their equipment works in a mobile DJ setup or environment. But like I said, it's not groundbreaking, it's not the best quality yet, but hopefully it will improve. So we've now got a turntable plugged in through the phono on the back of the Pioneer DDJ 800, and I'm going to test it with DVS. So I've got a Rekordbox DVS control vinyl here, and we've got a track loaded onto the right hand side. However, what I found is if I press play here, even though I'm on relative mode, it doesn't play the song. However, then if I switch deck 4, it doesn't do anything. But if I switch to the phono line, it plays the song. However, the level fader just brings in the control signal, and I don't actually have control over the audio. It's just controlling the speed of it. And I can control it. It's just really weird. I can control it with the vinyl, but there's no control over the audio, the level of it, or anything else. So I've looked in the settings and I feel like it's all set up right. You can see the signal, but there's no option to basically make it work with the DDJ 800 in a way that you're going to mix with it. So that's something that I really wanted to showcase. Obviously, if I'm wrong, then apologies, but I've sort of lost hope with that. Let's have a listen to how loud it is with an actual record. And there we have the phono input from the turntable. If I play something, it's got a bit of level to it, which is okay. Cool, I'm happy with that. I'm just going to quickly test whether all of the EQs and things like that work with a normal vinyl. So we've got EQs as normal. Let's just put the echo on. Channel 2. So it works on the master, but you can't choose channel 2 because channel 2 is theoretically internal. So that's just worth knowing as well. The effects will only work when it's on the master. So it's going to apply to both sides. It's also worth noting that without the Rekordbox software or laptop plugged in, this does work as a standalone mixer, say with turntables, but just bear in mind, all you have control over is the up fader, the crossfader, and the EQs, and the trims. Sound color effects don't work, and obviously this effects channel doesn't work either, unless you have the software plugged in. And there we have it, the complete demo and review of the Pioneer DDJ 800. So here are my thoughts and opinions on this new release from Pioneer DJ. So this came out to basically fill the gap between the Pioneer DDJ 400 and the Pioneer DDJ 1000, which are out on the market. We've got entry level and much higher level 4-channel controller. This is that controller that sits in between. Now I say it sits in between. It sits in between when it comes to the features and the layout and what you get sort of performance wise. However, it's definitely on the higher end when it comes to price. This is retailing in the UK at $779, and I'll put up on the screen some of the currencies. Now please bear in mind that the DDJ 1000 is a good £300 more expensive than that. However, the DDJ 400, you're looking at 500, nearly, yeah, about £500 cheaper than that. So we were hoping this would come in at around the £600 mark. However, again, it's a little bit more expensive than what we anticipated. Is it worth the money? Well, Pioneer products prove to be very popular. They can be very reliable. I think you are getting a nice amount for your money. However, I would have liked to see it a little bit cheaper. If you're set on using the Rekordbox DJ software and want to enter the Rekordbox Pioneer ecosystem, but can't quite afford the DDJ 1000, this is the great alternative. If you can afford the DDJ 1000, you might as well go for it. I think those extra channels, the mechanical jog wheels, and just being a bit bigger in size, it just feels a bit more professional. But this really does mirror, to an extent, a club layout very well, and you will feel quite comfortable going from this onto some CDJs and a mixer in a club. So if that's your end goal, playing in clubs on CDJs, potentially using USB or even using the performance mode, then this is a great controller to either get started with or even upgrade to from the DDJ 400. The things that I'm not a huge fan on this controller, or I feel like they haven't quite hit the mark with, those mic settings don't quite come across maybe what I hoped they would. I think there is room for improvement, especially with those noise reductions when we were playing around in the studio, putting the feedback and standing in different places with the speakers and talking into the microphone, and if you add those settings on, it starts to distort your voice slightly. I really like the thinking behind it. I just think there could be some updates done there, and it's not my favorite sort of addition to this controller. I do like that it's got all the professional grade outputs, so you can nicely take this to sort of any gig, party, wedding, and plug into a good quality PA system, and you've got all the creative features to perform well, and it's not too big. The Pioneer DDJ 1000 is quite a bit bigger and quite a bit heavier, but you get kind of the best of the Pioneer DDJ 1000 in a more compact unit. So this is way more portable for taking to parties and things like that. I'd also just like to mention, if you do already own this controller, then we have some Rekordbox DJ courses on our website that are worth checking out. All of those courses apply to this controller and its features. So make sure you check those out if you want to learn more and how to get creative as a DJ. Make sure to check out the performance that we've put together. If it's not online now, it will be very soon. So click the link to check that out. Thanks so much for watching. And remember, if you have any questions or comments, drop them below. And I look forward to seeing you in another review video very soon.